Last week, we started out Deep Dive 25, where we started looking at names of God. And the big takeaway at the beginning was God's names are different from our names. Do you guys remember how God's names are different from our names? How are they different? There you go. Yeah, yeah. If I tell you my name is Taylor, you automatically know that I'm sarcastic, right? No, you don't. You just know what I told you, that my name is Taylor, yeah? But if I say that God is Jehovah Jireh, you already see one of his characteristics, yeah? And Jehovah Jireh means, yeah, God our provider, yeah? Specifically in Hebrew, the Lord will provide. Jehovah Shalom, yeah. There we go. So we looked at this last week when we talked about Moses and the burning bush. And when Moses was asking questions about God, God was saying, I want you to go to Egypt and free my people from slavery. And Moses said, well, when they ask me who sent me, what should I tell them? And what does God say? Huh? I am. He told him to tell, I am sent you. And we're like, that makes no sense. I am. But then we started looking at the name of God. And our mind-blowing statement last week was God is not the name of God. That's not his name. Okay? His name is Yahweh. And that's the word we looked at last week. We looked at Yahweh. And we looked at how, this story with Moses and the burning bush entails with that. Okay? So tonight, we're going to be in the book of Psalms. We're going to be in Psalm 139. So if you want to go ahead and get there, we're going to be looking at that entire chapter tonight. And in it, we're going to learn one of the attributes of God, okay? And I already said it before we got the camera rolling tonight. Does anybody remember what it is? Starts with an O. Whoa. Yep. Yep. God is omniscient, okay? It's deep dive. We talk about big words here. There's a verse at the beginning of Psalm 139. It's the very first verse where David says, O Lord, you have searched me and known me. Now, the reason we're looking at these attributes of God this summer is we're tying them into how we can find peace in times of anxiety, right? In times of worry, in fear, and in doubt. How in the world does knowing God is omniscient calm my anxiety, right? That's kind of the question we're going to be asking tonight. And we see this right off the bat in Psalm 139, verse 1. O Lord, you have searched me and you have known me. Now, what I've seen throughout my years is that anxiety tends to isolate us. Worry can detach us from other people. And depression can disconnect us from the people that we love. I've seen that in so many situations. Why? It's because vulnerability in a relationship depends on you being transparent. What does that mean? It means on you being known by the other person. Yeah? And when we feel as if no one understands the pain that we're going through, we do what? We pull back, don't we? Yeah? Nobody understands what I'm going through, so if I pull back. If no one understands me or can comprehend my pain, then why would I spend time with anyone? How can I connect with others when they're oblivious to the anxiety in my mind? In this, we say stuff to ourselves like, if only there was someone who gets me. Nobody gets me. You ever found yourself saying that before? Nobody gets me. If only there was someone who understands me. If only I could be fully and truly known. Nobody gets me. But then on the other side, the thought of being fully known by someone, that may be the very thing that prompts your anxiety in the first place. You see, the lives that we live, we're often focused on posturing or performing in front of other people, are we not? And as a result, there's this fear that if people knew the real me, the me that's behind this mask, right? If they knew the real me, they would not want to know me at all. Yeah? And our fear is that one day, if the real me is exposed, and when I am known, I will not be loved. But as we're going to learn tonight, and I'm going to write this down because it's kind of like the big phrase of tonight, is that nobody knows you more than God. And there's a second half to it. Nobody loves you more than God. Nobody knows you more than God, but also nobody loves you more than God. I heard someone put it one time, God knows you the best and still loves you the most. He knows you the best, but still loves you the most. So tonight, our attribute for God is that he is omniscient. Who right away knows what that word means? That God is omniscient, other than Colin. Who knows? Huh? That's close. We're going to talk about that one. That's omnipresent. Oh, yep, there we go. It is a Latin word, the omniscient. It comes from a Latin word that is broken up into two parts. Aren't y'all so glad you came to Deep Dive tonight? Okay, this first part is this word omnis, which means all. And the second half is scientia, which means knowledge. So if you put this together, all knowledge, it means that God is all-knowing, right? He is all-knowing. God's omniscience means that he knows everything. And everything he knows exhaustively. Now, this is going to hurt your brain a little bit to think about, right? Because God knows no one thing and no one person better than another. He knows all things, all people, all places equally well. His knowledge has no limit. And his knowledge is different from the knowledge you or I have. All right, let me explain why. In order for me to do anything, like cook an egg, tie my shoes, shoot a basketball, hit a golf ball, play an instrument, right? In order to do any of those things, I had to first learn how to do it myself, right? I had to learn it before I could teach it. Because everything we know is based on something that we have learned. You with me so far? Yeah? But God's knowledge is not acquired or learned. It is who he is. So remember, God is the I am, which means he's not developing. He's not like this supercomputer that has AI that makes these split-second calculations and decisions, and he grows stronger with age. Okay? He already knows everything. And while it may be true for us that we learn something new every day, it's not true for God. He is omniscient. He is already all-knowing. And sometimes when we come to the study of God's character, it's a lot easier to describe what God is not like so that we can understand what he is like, okay? So for example, like the Apostle Paul once said that God cannot lie, right? And while he's talking about this, he's talking about how men lie and deceive. He uses that opposite there. God cannot lie, all right? So when we look at the omniscience of God, what does this mean? It means he never counts. He never discovers something. He's never surprised. He is never amazed. He never learns. He's never reminded. He never understands something more clearly today than he did yesterday. He never misinterprets. He is never made aware of something. And you can never teach him anything. In the book of Job, Job asked, can anyone teach God knowledge? The answer to that is no. Nobody can teach God knowledge. Isaiah asked a similar question. He said, who has directed the Spirit of the Lord, or as his counselor has informed him of something? Who did he consult? Who gave him understanding? Who taught him in the path of justice and taught him knowledge? What's the answer? Who taught God something? No one. Who informed God? No one. Who gave God understanding? No one. There's this big word when you talk about God's character. It's another big word. Deep dive. It's this word, immutability. Anybody ever heard that word before? Immutability. Oh, that's not like me sometimes with Delcy where I get the remote pointed at her and hit the mute button. That's not what that is. Immutability. This means God's characteristics do not change. His characteristics are immutable. I might say that one of my characteristics is that I'm funny, but then I'll drop a joke and it won't land. Yeah? That's a characteristic that changes from day to day with me. But God's characteristics do not change. He is love, now, tomorrow, and for all time. Right? He is peace, now, tomorrow, and for all time. He is all-knowing, now, tomorrow, yesterday, and for all time. He does not change. I am what I am, and I will be what I will be. That's what God is, right there. If God could learn, that would mean he's not immutable. I'm frying y'all's brains already. This is good. The Lord, this is what Malachi says, the Lord, you do not change. He doesn't change and he can't learn. And so now you're asking yourself, like, okay, Taylor is absolutely frying my brain, all these big words, and you're asking yourself, what in the world does this have to do with my anxiety? God knows everything. Cool. How can that calm my fears? How can that make my heart rate go down when I think about praying with somebody on the boardwalk next week? Okay? What in the world does God's omniscience have to do that can calm my fears and my doubts and my worries? Well, remember when in Matthew 6, when Jesus was talking about anxiety, what did he do? He didn't give them a 5-step plan to eliminate anxiety in their life. What did he do? He said, look at those flowers. Consider the lilies, is what he said. And if God clothes those flowers, how much more does he care about you who is made in his image? What does he do? He doesn't say, take a couple breaths. He doesn't say, try these techniques. He says, look at God's character and let God's character calm you. If God clothes the flowers of the field, how much more does he care about you, his child? And when we come to a deeper understanding of who God is, there's an author by the name of A.W. Tozer. He says it relieves us of 10,000 temporary problems. So, we're going to look through Psalm 139, and I'm going to give you not one, not two, not 3 points. I'm going to give you 8 points tonight of all the things that God knows. Not all the things, but the things in this passage that God knows. Are you ready? Cool deal. We're going to fly through some of these pretty quickly. So you see 8 points, you're like, Taylor, it's already 6:53. Don't worry. Some of these are pretty fast. Okay? So, number 1, with my horrific handwriting, and all these are based in Psalm 139. So at the end, I'm going to tell you the verse that it's in. Yeah, so V1, verse 1. Number 1, God knows you. In this chapter, the first verse, Lord, you have searched me and you have known me. That Hebrew word for search, it means a lot more than just a casual glance. There's so many things that you look at and then you look away and you immediately forget what it looks like, right? Yeah? Like, I had Delcy with me all morning, and Sarah asked me, like, what did she wear to the golf course? I hadn't even changed her this morning, and I couldn't remember what I put on her. And I watched her all morning. I was with her for hours, all day, and I couldn't remember what I had dressed her with this morning. This word for search here, when it says you have searched me, it means he did much more than just casually glance. It means, this word, it means something like God investigates and inspects your hearts. Now, Delcy was looking for a toy earlier today, her Ken doll, and she said, I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. And you know how long it took me to find it?
2 seconds.
A little bit longer, 5 seconds. It took me about 5 seconds. Just went to her toy box, opened it. There's Ken right there sitting on top. She did this. I can't find him. I looked everywhere. I'm like, you obviously didn't. You could have looked harder, right? I'm sure Chuck goes through that. But this is how we are. But God does much more when he searches us, right? He leaves no stone unturned. Everything that's hidden in our hearts is fully known by him. Even what's unseen on the surface, even things that he has to dig up, he searches and he knows. The Hebrew word for know here is the term yada. If you look at it in English, it looks like yada. It's more like yada in Hebrew, which it's the same word that's used to describe Adam's intimate relationship with Eve in Genesis. Okay? This is much more than I know about you. It means I know you on a very close and intimate level. Okay? It means I know you more than I know anyone. He knows you deeply, personally, and exhaustively. He knows everything about you. He doesn't just know that you exist. He doesn't just know your name. He doesn't just occasionally check in on you. He knows every hair on your head. He knows everything in your heart. The God who knows a million things at once, the God who knows billions of galaxies, the God who knows 8 billion people on this earth right now has his mind set on you, and he knows you deeply. God knows you. So, the second thing we see, this is in verses 2 and 3, God knows your actions. He knows your actions. Okay. Verses 2 and 3, you know when I sit down and when I stand up. You understand my thoughts from far away. You observe my travels and my rest. You are aware of all my ways. He says, you know when we sit down and when we sit up. In this Hebrew, can I blow your mind for a second? Can I just get to that next level real quick with me for a second, okay? Because I read some books on this, and yeah, it even blew my mind. In Hebrew literature, all right, sitting and rising, they're opposites, right? Sitting and rising, they're opposite actions. In Hebrew literature, this is what we call, I'm going to try to write this upside down, a merism. Not meritism, merism, okay? Which is, it's a device that they use to take two opposite sides of the spectrum, but also include everything in between. So you have sitting and rising. And when he says, you see me when I sit and when I rise, in Hebrew, that means you see everything in between sitting and rising as well. Everything in between. Okay? You don't just see me when I sit. You don't just see me when I rise. You see everything in between. Okay? So, like in Genesis 1, when it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, that's a merism. How? Because it's saying not only did God create the heavens and the earth, he created everything in between as well. Okay? They're listing the ends of the spectrum and saying everything in between that is on the list. Okay? Therefore, David is not just saying that God knows a summary of your day. He knows every moment of your day. He knows every action of your day. Everything you do is known by God. You've never done a single thing, gone to a single place, or experienced any event that is unknown to him, because God knows your actions. Number 3, God knows your heart. We find this in verse 4, where it says, before a word is on my tongue, you know all about it, Lord. In the Old Testament, God sent a prophet named Samuel to anoint a new king over Israel. And he went to a man's house, the man's name is Jesse, and he had many sons. Lined up all these sons, and a lot of them looked strong. They looked big. They looked just like King Saul. And so if the people had gotten to choose, they would have been like, he looks like a king. He looks like a king. That one also looks like a king. But God said no to every single one of them. And there's a verse in 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 7, 1 Samuel, where when Samuel's looking, he says, God sees not as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And years later, the king that Samuel did pick at Jesse's house, his name's David, is the writer of this psalm. And he said in verse 4, even before there is a word on my tongue, Lord, you know it all. In Matthew, Jesus says that our lips are a window into our hearts, but God doesn't need to hear us speak to see into our hearts. Okay? God doesn't need to hear you speak to see your heart. Even the unspoken words from your lips are known by him, because he searches you and knows you. This might terrify you if you're running away from God, but David rejoiced over it. He knew that when he went to God in prayer, he didn't need to fear being misunderstood by God. He didn't need to fear by being overlooked by God. He knew, and we should know tonight, that before we say a word, God knows our hearts. Number 4, God knows your needs. This is verse 5. You have encircled me. You have placed your hand on me. Other translations would say God has hemmed in. Is there the word hem in any of your translations? H-E-M? Yeah? Some of your translations will say God has hemmed in. So this means that he's like enveloped his children so closely that there's not a single thing they need that he is not already aware of. David is saying here, he says, you lay your hand upon me. This is a way of saying that God's hand of protection, provision, and fatherly care is on him. Even if you're walking through the deepest valleys and dark storms, you can remember that God's hand is on your life, and he promises to meet your needs. You see this in Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. My God will supply all your needs according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. According to his riches. Thomas talked about that just yesterday in Ephesians 3. That's so important. Interestingly, Paul wrote these words that God will meet all your needs. He'll supply all your needs. Paul didn't write this while he was in a country club. Where was Paul when he wrote that verse? He was in prison when he wrote that. When he said, God will supply all your needs. I'm like, Paul, you're in prison, dude. And you're still saying that. Yet he was able to confidently say that God will meet all our needs. And so if you're concerned about anything that you feel like you might be lacking, the truth of Scripture says your Father knows what you need before you even ask him. He knows. We have so many needs, yet Jesus tells us that our omniscient Father already knows each and every single one of them. And for that reason, Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6, verse 34, do not worry about tomorrow. Because another attribute of God, his omnipresence, he's already there. The one who knows everything, he's already in the tomorrow that you're worried about. He's already working there, just as he's working right now. All our needs are known by our Father, who cares more about our needs than we do. There's a beautiful quote by a guy who's been dead a very long time, Augustine. He once said, God is more anxious to bestow his blessings on us than we are to receive them. And the older you get, the more you'll go, at that statement. Y'all might not think much of it now, but I read that and that drives an arrow through my heart. We don't have a Father who's indifferent to what we need. He's not apathetic. You know what apathetic means? It means like he doesn't care. He is not like that when it comes to our needs. We have a Father who knows our needs and promises to meet every single one of them. God knows your needs. Number 5, God knows you in the dark. God knows you in the dark. We jump down to verses 11 and 12 to find this. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light around me will be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night shines like the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. these lines that he wrote, they also speak of God's omnipresence, that he's everywhere, but they use it to explain how he knows everything, his omniscience. The reason God knows everything in every place is that he himself is everywhere. David found comfort in that truth, that there's nowhere in the world where you can run from God. There's nowhere in the world you can go where God's like, oh, I don't know where they are. Like, you can't play hide and seek with God, right? You can't, because he already knows where you are. Not only does God know as we walk through dark places, but he knows when we walk through dark seasons. David said back in verse 10, he said, even there your hand will guide me. So in these strange and dark and even painful places we might go through in life, the all-knowing and all-present hand of God will guide you in those times of suffering. One of the books I read on this, the author said, the clouds are no canopy, and the night is no curtain to prevent our Father from seeing and knowing his children. Nothing can keep him from knowing you. That's number 5. God knows you in the dark. Number 6. See, we're flying. Number 6. I'll have to explain this one. God knows your frame. God knows your frame. You find this in verses 13 through 15, where it says, for it was you who created my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you because I have been remarkably and wondrously made. Your works are wondrous, and I know this very well. My bones were not hidden from you when I was made in secret, when I was formed in the depths of the earth. Even the next verse goes along with it. Your eyes saw me when I was formless. All my days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. Do any of you struggle like with your identity, like who you are? You ever look in the mirror, you're like, who am I? No, yeah, a couple of us. This is what I want you to think about. God knew you when you were just one of 20 possible names in your parents' mind. Like before they even knew your name, God knew you. All children, even the unplanned, unexpected, and unwanted, are known and knit together by God. David writes that in verse 13. You formed my inward parts. You covered me. You knit me together in my mother's womb. And although there are billions of cells within a tiny fetus that is forming in the womb, each and every one of those cells is known by God. Every single one of them. And for us, we're often confused or even broken in life sometimes. We need someone who understands us. And the wonderful thing about that is that God gets you because he made you. Like, think about like the chair you're sitting in. The manufacturer that made that chair knows the most about that chair, right? Because he made it. Yeah? Like, Chuck knows more about BMW cars than most people. Why? Because he makes them, right? Yeah, you assemble them. But that is so true, even with God. He knows you because he made you. And why would you not go to the manufacturer to find out if there's something you feel that's broken inside of you? Why wouldn't you run to him? He knows what's going on way more than you do. Because you're not a statistic to God. You're not just a number. You're not just a name. You are someone that he loves and cares and knows very, very deeply. He knows your frame. And because of this, it drives David to worship, right? Because right in the middle in verse 14, I will praise you. In your translations, it might say, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That's a very popular verse. Lots of people quote that. I am fearfully and wonderfully made because I have been made by an all-knowing God. God knows your frame. Number 7. Got 2 more. Number 7. God knows your days. Verse 16. I already read it just a second ago. Your eyes saw me when I was formless. All my days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. This kind of delves into what we're going to talk about at our next deep dive, which will be in 2 weeks, where we talk about God being sovereign. And I'm going to need 2 hours to talk about that one, because that one takes a while to delve through. I'm kidding. But it does take a lot of time, but I won't need 2 hours. But our lifespans are determined sovereignly by God. That's kind of a scary thing to talk about, that God knows. He knew, Delcy was born 4 days after her due date. She was due on November the 2nd. She was born on November the 6th. But when she was born, it wasn't a moment earlier or later than God had planned. He knew it. He knew to the second when she would be born. From the cradle to the grave and every day in between, God knows your birthday, your death day, and even when it's just one of those days. He knows. He knows every single one of them. God knows your days. And we're going to talk about that more in 2 weeks when we talk about his sovereignty. So we're going to run over to verse 8. And this one we're going to kind of jump away from Psalm 139. It's going to kind of be our closing here, is that God knows best. God knows best. If I could attach a verse to this, it would be Romans 11:33. Anybody want to scroll, find that real quick? Read it for the class. This is number 8. Yeah. Romans 11:33. Last year I'd written down a verse and it was the completely wrong verse, and someone read it and I was like, that doesn't make sense. And I was like, I don't even know what the right one is. Anybody got it? Anybody want to read it? Colin, go ahead. Read it one more time. That first half especially. Yeah. Oh, the depth of the riches and the wisdom and the knowledge of God. He not only knows our actions, our hearts, our frame, our days, he also knows best. You know that you could have all the knowledge in the world and still be a fool? Because there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? My grandfather, he was a preacher. He used to say that knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing you don't put tomatoes in a fruit salad. Okay? Like that's the difference right there. And what Paul is saying here in Romans is that God has both. And they're deeper than you could ever imagine. His wisdom and his knowledge. Oh, the depth of the riches of both of them. God's knowledge and wisdom, they're joined together. He doesn't just know everything. He doesn't just have all knowledge. He also has all wisdom. So, with what he knows what to do with what he knows. Does that make sense? Yeah? He knows how to apply everything that he knows. And so, when you run to him, you're not just getting words from an all-knowing God. You're getting wisdom. You're not just getting knowledge from him, you're getting wisdom. He knows exactly what to do with his knowledge. He knows best. And when we think that our friends know best, why don't next time when we go to seek our friends' advice, why don't we compare our friends to the omniscient, perfect God? And just do a little bit of pros and cons here. Yeah? What are the pros of following my friend over following God? I can't really think of any. What are a lot of cons? Lots of them. Yeah? What are the pros of following an omniscient, all-knowing God over my best friend? Yeah? There's a lot of pros there, not a lot of cons. Yeah? Why? Because God knows best. God knows better than you do about your life. All these decisions that you struggle with, God knows what to do with them before you even come to his throne asking for an answer. He knows. He knows best, and he knows better than you do. And some of us need that reality check because the more time that I spend away from my Bible, the more time I spend away from prayer, the more I begin to be filled up with pride and thinking I can make my own decisions. And every time I make my own decisions, I end up falling over on my face every single time. Every single time. And it's because I decided to go on my own authority and thinking that I knew what was best for me. But why would I do that when I have an omniscient God that dwells in me? Like, you have access to this right now. It's not like you have to read the entire Bible and pray every day for 3 years before you can finally unlock the Holy Spirit working in your life. No, as soon as you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, as soon as you believe in your heart, you got access to all of this. You have access into the throne room of the omniscient, all-knowing God, who knows the answer to every single one of your problems, who has exactly what you need when you need it. And when you have that, when you have him, why would you go anywhere else? And so that's why it's so important to learn these attributes of God. Yes, it can hurt our brains to think about what it means for him to be omniscient. But when you start to apply it to your life, it can start changing things. If he knows everything, goodness gracious, that means he knows a lot more than I do. So I'm going to go to him. I'm not going to rest on what I know. I'm going to go to what he knows. And then I'm going to live on that. Okay? God is omniscient. He knows you. He knows your actions, your heart, your needs. He knows you in the dark. He knows your frame. He knows your days. And he knows best. He knows.